guys, how's it going? So today I'm in the vegetable garden getting ready to harvest my garlic. And I am about, I would say 10 days, maybe 14 days late in this process. Typically I don't let my garlic lay down on the ground like that before I harvest it. In fact, we have done harvesting and curing and storing videos about garlic before in the past, but I thought I would just show you the process again. And then I'm going to be re-amending the soil, and I'm going to be planting some sweet potato slips in their place. So let me show you what we've got going on here. Isn't that just about the saddest thing you've ever seen? I did dig one of them out last night because I wanted to make sure that they were still okay because they just look so bad. And we've had a ton of rain lately, which I think has contributed to the fact that they're all flopped over like this, because there's still a lot of green left in the leaves. Like, there's still some life left in these plants. Typically I like them to still be upright, like this one, like the lone garlic in there. And you wait until the tops, like the plant will tell you when it's ready to be harvested. The tops will start to dry, yellow up like this. And then you want to pay attention to the bottom of the stalk as well. Like on this one, you can see these two bottom leaves have dried up. You don't want a lot of that drying to happen because the state of these leaves correlates to the outer skin on your head of garlic. If you were to wait until the entire stalk dried out, that would mean that the papery skin that's covering the head of garlic would most likely be deteriorated as well. And if that deteriorates, the storage time of your garlic just dramatically reduces. You can't store it as long, so it's really important to keep an eye on your garlic. And had I been watching a little bit closer this year, I would have probably done this process a little bit earlier. It's typically right around the 4th of July though, and it's July 1st today. The high is 78. It's a beautiful day. So this is all Italian garlic right here. I've got 2 3x4 raised beds of it. I think I was able to plant like, I want to say 60 in each one of these beds. We'll see, I'll count them when we're all done. But the digging process is easy. I just use my favorite trowel right here. And then I start digging like, a couple inches away from the base of the stalk because I don't want to accidentally pierce the head. I just loosen that soil up. Oh, look at that. And pull it right out like that. Now, it's also a good idea, if you're thinking about it and you're getting ready to harvest, to cut water to your crop. At least like 2 or 3 days before you're ready to dig. And that way you won't deal with all of this excess moist soil sitting around the clove, or the head rather, like I do today. We've had a ton of water. I did turn the water off to these beds, so it hasn't been watering with drip, but this is all due to rainwater. And that's okay, we're gonna lay it out to dry, which I'll talk about that process in a minute. So let me dig all of this up, and then I'll show you what we've got going on. That is a beautiful harvest. Look at those. 115 heads of softneck Italian garlic, most of which are in excellent shape, really good quality. You can see nice coloring. The skin is still intact all the way around the cloves. Some of these are huge, like these are pretty good size. Got a really big one right here. Nice size this year. It's different every year. And then we've got a lot of kind of normal size, medium size heads as well. But you will notice there are a few that look like this one right here. This is a really good example of what happens when you leave your garlic in the ground too long. Look at how dry that stalk is. There's not as much green, or any green rather, like the other ones that have quite a bit of green left in them. So the outer skin that protects the head started to deteriorate, and it exposed the first layer of cloves. Not a huge deal, like they're totally still intact, they're still nice and firm, they're just a little dirty. So we'll do the drying and curing rather process with this, and we'll just start utilizing this type of head first. So we'll eat these first because all the rest of them that have better skins will store much better. So the second step after you've harvested your garlic, which is really easy to do, is to dry it down. This process takes about 2 to 3 days. I'm doing this behind our barn because it's a perfect area. It's shaded but bright, has really good airflow. I lay the garlic out in a single layer so that all of the heads of garlic are exposed to air. And this way, this process dries up any moisture that's around these cloves. Because you notice my soil was really wet, so I've got some wet soil clinging to the heads, and that's not good to take any moisture into storage because they just won't store as long. So I brought out a pallet You see that right there? So that Aaron and I can lift this whole pallet in to the barn. The rest of it is on this cart that I can wheel into the barn once the drying process is over, and then we'll cure the garlic. So I can't really show you the curing garlic process in this video because I still have to dry this down, but it's very easy. So all we do in 2 or 3 days is lift this stuff, put it in the barn. So you want it in an area that's protected, that still has good ventilation, that's still fairly warm, but you want to put it in a spot that's not going to be in your way for a couple of weeks, because that's how long it takes to cure your garlic. And we leave the roots and the stalks intact for this whole process, because like this stalk right here is still, it's still got a lot of energy in it, and that head of garlic will still soak in some of the energy from the leaves and roots. So that's basically it for the curing process, is just lifting it from its drying location into where you want to cure it, and then in 2 weeks you clean the heads of garlic, which I will show you what they look like after you clean it. So this is what a head looks like pre-cleaned. It will be much more dried down after 2 weeks. Like, there won't be very much green, it'll probably be all brown. And what you'll do is you'll come in with a soft rag or a soft brush, and you'll gently brush any loose soil off of your head of garlic. You don't want to mess up the skin though, so be very gentle. That's why I'm not going to mess with this very much today. And then what you'll do is you'll take your pruners. I have my Falcos here, and I usually cut the stalk, unless you want to braid them. Soft neck garlic you can braid if you prefer to store it that way, and we have done a video on that. But I usually cut my stalks just a couple inches above the head, and then I cut the roots off clean, and then I put them in a well-ventilated basket. I have like some woven baskets that I store these in our basement. This is the head that I harvested what was that, last night? Anyway, it was fairly dry, so I wanted to clean it up a little bit just so you can see what it looks like, what to expect it to look like once you get it ready for storage after the curing process. I think garlic is one of the easiest things to grow ever. Like ever. I mean, we put it in the ground in the fall, so there's not a lot going on in the fall, so it seems like a super pleasant project to do because you're not thinking of 100 other projects you need to be doing. So it's like, I don't know, it's always a good day, garlic planting day. So end of September, beginning of October, I always put Biotone starter fertilizer in the soil. Last year I also put a layer of leaf mulch down, which I think did wonders to our soil. I have a ton of earthworms in there this year. And then I water it in, and I make sure if we have a really dry fall to give it water every once in a while, because you don't want it to dry out completely. Sometimes if it's a warm fall or a long fall, you'll see some green start to emerge from the soil, and that's totally normal. It'll be fine for the course of the winter, and then it'll maybe snow or whatever. Sometimes it does here, sometimes it doesn't. And it'll just cover over the top of the garlic, and then in the spring it'll just pick up and keep on growing. So what I usually do is give it 2 side dresses of Garden Tone during its growing season. So usually like in March I'll go sprinkle some Garden Tone right alongside the rows of garlic, and then I'll go in maybe like first part of May and do it one more time, because alliums like this, garlic and onions, they're very heavy feeders. They like a lot of food in order to form really good bulbs. And that's it. I mean, other than this harvesting, drying, curing process, which is really not a lot too. I mean, it's definitely like you have to keep in mind in 3 days I need to come and move these into the barn, but it's not a lot of activity for how much I get from planting the garlic. And you can plant a ton in a small amount of space. I mean, 115 heads in 2 3x4 beds. I think that's amazing. All right, so we're just gonna leave the garlic here. I'm gonna grab a couple of bags of the Land and Sea compost, and we're gonna head back to the garden, and we are gonna plant some sweet potato slips where the garlic was. So back out in the garden, and I want to get these garlic beds planted right back up. Just because I'm so late getting these planted. Typically we want to plant sweet potatoes in May here in our area, and given the fact that it's July 1st means that I'm going to be pushing it a little bit. But this variety isn't as long of a maturity day as some of the other varieties. This right here, these are slips, sweet potato slips. They're an 80 to 95 day sweet potato. It's called Beauregard. It's one of the most popular sweet potato types because it's super high yielding and they're really disease resistant. So I think because we have such a long season, I'll be okay. So 80 to 95 days means I will be harvesting mid to late September, which we're still typically really warm at that point. So the first thing that I want to do before I plant my sweet potatoes is amend my soil. Because the alliums are such heavy feeders, they draw a lot of nutrients out of the soil and utilize it. So I'm going to be putting some nutrients back in. That's super important. So I'm going to add in 1 bag of Land and Sea compost per raised bed, and then I'll be incorporating some of our starter fertilizer as well. So I'm going to do that first. I ran and put a microphone on, you guys, because they are moving a lot of dirt behind our vegetable garden where they're building a new house. So there's big equipment running. I don't know if you can hear it, so I apologize if it gets really noisy, but this process won't take us very long. So sweet potatoes are grown by slip, which look like this right here. This looks really good, especially given the fact that I had it stored in a plastic bag for a month and a half in our greenhouse waiting to go in the ground. They usually, when they come in to the garden center, they're sometimes like half black and rotted looking, and they look like they're not gonna turn into anything, but you just put them in the ground and they usually take off. So you grow them by slips, little plants, rather than tubers like you do regular potatoes, and they vine out. So you wanna keep that in mind. It's okay that they'll vine out kind of all over the ground in this area of the garden because it's in the two corners that I don't walk around these very much. So it's okay for them to trail out and just kind of do their thing right here. I don't mind it at all. They like full sun. In fact, the more sun, the better. They like high daytime temperatures and high nighttime temperatures. And the more sun they get, the sweeter they will be. So you want to space them about 12 to 18 inches apart from each other. You might see that I've already made some holes in here. I can plant 12 sweet potato slips per raised bed, and I think it will work out great. So I'll get a close-up showing you how I plant this one slip right here, and then I'm just gonna get the project done. All right, so the soil has been amended, compost and biotone, so it's nice and rich. I went through with my trowel, and I just like really make sure the soil is loosened in each one of these holes because I don't want these plants to have a hard time forming tubers. And then what I do is I just bury my slip right up to where, like above where the roots start, which they start right here. So I'll just go like this. We'll bury it, and then we're gonna kind of hill it up a little bit. This leaf was damaged, so I'm gonna take that off. There we go. And that's it. There's one bed planted. Doesn't look like much right now. And there's the other one. I probably should have metered out some of the good looking ones into both beds, but I think they'll both be fine. Can you see all that equipment moving out there? I surprisingly don't mind it. I do kind of wish they would leave that big pile of dirt right there though. Kind of a nice berm. I would rather look at a big nice berm and plant it up than houses probably. And that's pretty much it for today's vegetable garden project. I'm super happy to have the garlic all done, harvested. It's back there drying, and then the sweet potatoes in, because I was watching these poor sweet potatoes just kind of look a little sad in the greenhouse, and I just knew like every day that would pass was one more day that like I may not be able to harvest them. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do. Now I did make sure to turn the water back on this bed. I had turned it off for the garlic a little while ago. And sweet potatoes do need consistent moisture. They don't want to sit in moisture, like they don't want to sit in water. They need well-draining soil. But I do notice that the vines tend to wilt fairly easily if they're not consistently watered. So I'm going to water them in with a hose today just to make sure all the soil is settled in really well around each one of those slips, and then I'll let the drip system do the rest. And at this point of the year, we do have our drip system in our vegetable garden running every single day. We have it running at 6 in the morning and it goes off for 45 minutes and everything looks amazing. I mean, look at this space. Look at these onions. Look at those. I mean, just absolutely amazing. That's one bed of potatoes right there. There's a sunflower that I didn't plant. We've got beets, we've got carrots, we've got Brussels sprouts. Look at those in there. Looking awesome. There's some Copenhagen Market cabbage, which are pretty much ready to roll. I think I'm gonna harvest and donate these because we've had a lot of cabbage already. This one's not forming up like the rest. See how small that is? So maybe we'll just leave that and see what happens. But look at how nice that head of cabbage is. This isn't one of my favorite vegetable garden plants just because of the way it looks, honestly. We've got Walla Walla onions. These have a little bit of time yet before we're ready to harvest those, but we will do a video about that probably. And then we've got more potatoes. which a harvest video is going to happen pretty quick on those as well. And then I've got peas, snow peas, that are done. I need to take those out. And I do have some pepper plants waiting in the greenhouse to go in that bed. And the strawberries this year, holy moly, these are Buried Treasure Red. So not only do they have beautiful red flowers, but look at this. Look at these berries. And I am not kidding when I say that we come out here every day and there's a harvest. Like there's a crop of berries every single day when we come out here. And not just little ones, but big ones too. And this is the second year for these. I do notice on my first year strawberries that the berries are a little bit smaller and the crop isn't quite as prolific. But on these second year berries, it's just amazing. They're doing awesome. And that's it, you guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope that your vegetable gardens are doing really well this year. I'm just certainly thankful. I think that the soil preparation has been key in our garden, starting with a good mix to start with, and then amending it, just amending it and amending it and amending it some more, adding in leaves. I'm going to do that again this fall because I think this year with the leaf compost we did in the fall and the additional land and sea compost that we've been using this year, I've never seen my garden look as good. I'm just really thrilled. And I know every year is different depending on the weather, so that could have something to do with it as well. It's been a lot cooler this year. We've had a lot more moisture. So I just think all of those things combined have just created a wonderful vegetable garden this year. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.